My name is David Rodriguez, David Rodriguez.
Okay, so the governor ruled that there's this statewide mask order. Tell me how you feel about that.
I think it's diabolical. I don't know who he thinks he is, but he's definitely overreaching his authority as a governor, and he's enraging millions of homeowners throughout the state. And if any other governors continue to do this, they're going to lose support. And so it's just showing how weak their authority and their leadership is, because real leaders don't use force and coercion. And it's really sad to see him doing that.
What does this mean for you?
This means that some of my activist friends all throughout the state are talking about starting something called the Governor's Tax Elimination or the Governor's Property Tax Elimination Program, where they will no longer pay county property taxes in response to the governor until he removes the shelter in place and the mandatory mask order. I haven't heard any official launch, but these are some conversations that many people down in Southern California, Northern Central California are discussing. Because what do you do when your government doesn't listen to what you're asking? And we saw what happened in Orange County. And so, the local community people are getting together and starting to take some action. And so the governor just decides to clamp down from the top like a centralized authority, almost like a totalitarian government.
Are you not worried about coronavirus?
I see it as a flu of sorts, an over-exaggerated flu. I've done personal investigations into hospitals in San Jose, in Santa Cruz. They're virtually empty, and so I'm more concerned about the government response, acting as if they are my master, acting as if they are someone responsible for my health. When in reality, we're seeing it from Fauci to Gates to Newsom. They keep saying this is what's going to happen until a vaccine is released. So it seems to me that there's a pharmaceutical interest involved, and that seems to be one of the aspects and the purposes of this whole pandemic.
Hmm. Okay, that's an interesting perspective. Um, what what made you what made you come to that idea?
Well, I'm familiar with SB 277, which passed in California 5 years ago about the mandatory vaccinations for schools. And so, let alone the mandatory attendance policies in school, which requires children go to government schools for 12 years from age 6 to age 18 under threat of jail for a year or $2,000 fine for the parents. So anytime a organization uses coercion, you can tell this is a criminal entity. And the reason is that I'm sure, Max, you're a nice guy. You probably don't use coercion in your life, neither do I. And so all moral and peaceful people use consent. And this is what the Me Too movement was about. In those types of relationships, you have to have consent. So why is it different for business relationships, educational relationships? All relationships should be voluntary and consensual.
Very good. Um, okay, so I Shannon did the story with you last time, I believe, right? And you
Correct.
were you were going to the grocery stores, right?
Yeah,
What
Operation Grocery Store. Yeah.
Operation Grocery Store? That's what it's called. Okay, yeah. Tell me a little bit. I'm gonna include a little bit in that, obviously.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit about how that got started and what the goal is.
So Operation Grocery Store started because some of us were just tired of going to stores and having to wear masks. I have multiple friends who have legitimate health conditions, and they got real exemption letters, notices from their doctors, and so they go take it to these stores and they don't recognize it. So we just see this going in a very poor direction after 3 months, and from what I can tell, very low mortality rate for this virus, and it seems to be an exercise of power. So we decided to put some people together, and there's other organizers, there's other people who care about freedom like I do. So we said, let's go check out different stores. So we went to Safeway, Grocery Outlet, New Leaf, Trader Joe's, and find out which stores are friendly for people who don't want to wear a mask. And so we've done four of them so far, and the New Leaf one went viral just because we had to put on a mask to actually get inside, and then inside we took off the masks, and then we video recorded it and just showed almost a military type response to taking off your masks. And we do respect property rights, but the purpose of doing it is to start a conversation about breathing oxygen. And so if somebody has a legitimate notice from a doctor Are they allowed to go shopping in your store? And if not, that's fine. We'll go shop somewhere else, and these businesses will eventually go out of business because oxygen is essential for life, and it's really alarming that some people freely give up their right to oxygen for the name of the greater good, but the greatest minority is actually the individual.
Do you think that, like, I'm just going to throw out like a hypothetical question for you. So, for instance, I think on one of your videos, you were talking to one guy who agrees with you. Like, he's not for the masks, but at his store, I don't remember which store it was, but like the management,
Yeah, that was
you
probably
know.
grocery outlet.
Okay, yeah, I think so. So, when it comes to like, you're talking about like the governor and the health department and these coercion tactics. What if this is just like the business owner just wanting to keep their business safe? Like, what if this has nothing to do with propaganda or a conspiracy? Like, what if this is just the business owner wanting to do the best for their business and not get in any sort of trouble?
That's exactly what happened at grocery outlet. The general manager, the employees, and the owner all want to take off their masks, but they're afraid of the county health department shutting them down. So that's why in the last conversation I called the health department a terrorist organization, because they're causing terror in the staff, the management, and the ownership. And so because it's a private business, they can do whatever they want, you know. And so just like in New Leaf, they asked us to leave, we left. You know, we wanted to spend our money there, but we just left our items there because the managers just went irate. And
Well, did you want to spend your money there to make a point, or did you want to spend your money because you guys actually needed groceries?
well, I had heard that New Leaf was pretty tyrannical with their requirements of the masks, and so yeah, we wanted to test it out. I'd never been there, so
So it
um,
wasn't just to get groceries; it was to like test them. It was to make a point. It
it's
was
to
you weren't
start a
like going for.
conversation. Yeah, I mean, who knew that it was going to go viral? It's more about just saying like, wow, like that was the response, because she could have been really nice and expressed it differently, but she expressed it in a way that even some of our people in the organization, you know, they kind of were a little bit raising their voices, and you know, so each side's passionate. So I think the goal is to have a legitimate conversation, discussion. And so if the owners of New Leaf want to say never come here with masks, or you have to have a mask to come here, then we won't go there. So it's not a store that I go to regularly, but other stores that don't require that, I'm going to go there because I really can't breathe with that mask on. And there's something called hypoxia, which is very dangerous for the health. And actually, two schoolboys in China died exercising with those masks on. So it's actually very dangerous to breathe in carbon dioxide when your body
But
needs oxygen.
that fatality number is fairly low, though, considering two people out of, you know, all the people wearing masks, especially in China. That number seems pretty low. I mean, considering you're saying the fatality rate here for the coronavirus is
It's
relatively
all
low. I
low.
would say
Yeah,
that math that's also low.
absolutely.
Um,
It's all low. Unnecessary death, though. They didn't have to wear a mask and then cause kids to die. You know, they could have just been running out and playing.
so do you think that if a grocery store were to just let people go with their masks, without their masks, and people go to the grocery store without the masks, and they get coronavirus and die, would that be an unnecessary death?
Sure, but how would you know where you got a coronavirus? It's like, how would you know where you got the flu? You know, you go to your friend's house, you go to school, you go to work. How do you know that person gave me the flu? I mean, it's kind of this invisible enemy, as these
Right.
people are saying. So how do you know where you get it? And that's another big question.
Right. So why don't you want to prevent the possibility of even getting a virus? I guess that's the question. That's the question.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things that kill people more than the coronavirus. The flu itself kills, 60 to 70,000 people a year. Tuberculosis kills 1 million people a year. So why aren't we doing more preventive measures for tuberculosis? And that seems to be a really big concern. Car accidents, hundreds of thousands of people die in car accidents. So
I think that the concern with the coronavirus is the rate and the speed that it's spreading. That's the concern with the things you mentioned. That's not like a rate of spread as as quick. Like the flu didn't spread as quickly as the coronavirus. It never has. Car accidents, obviously, that's a situational accident. So, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I just feel like there's some loopholes into your.
So I just, yeah, just so you know, I saw the CDC mortality rate of the coronavirus, and it's 0.002 people who get the coronavirus actually die from it. So even if you do get it, the chances are 1 in, what is that, 1,000? 1 in 10,000 that you're going to die. So even if you do get it, the likelihood of death is very low.
Right. I guess I'm just trying to just touch all my bullets with you. I'm not trying to like comfort you or anything like that. I'm just trying to do my
absolutely, man. No, I appreciate you.
So, is there anything that you think that I like forgot to ask, or like something that someone else has asked you that's kind of been a
no, but thanks for talking about this mandatory mask thing, which just happened today. My guess that this thing is going to continue until who knows? I mean, it seems to me it's because what happened in Orange County, they got together and opened it up, and they're starting to do that in Santa Cruz County and San Benito County, as other places. So now local activists are starting to be in action, and so from the top, the governor just kind of shut that down. So he's going to cause more strife. He's going to cause more hate towards him, and because what happens is that you have a natural right, Max, just like myself, to my body and to my life, and life comes with risk. And the other flip of freedom is personal responsibility. So there's nothing that the government can do to save me. I have to save myself, and so that's what families are about. That's what churches, communities, voluntary associations. We actually get into relationships with people we want to get in a relationship with, and there's a lot of different solutions. But mandating the whole state of 40 million people wear a covering over their mouths with is oxygen. You can't breathe without two minutes of oxygen. I think that's a little too far, and he's going to cause more trouble for himself and for local communities, and I'm really sorry that he's doing that.
What's next for you, David? What's next for you on this mask venture?
Who knows? You know, every day is changing very quickly. We might do another Operation Grocery Store. We might have to shift. I mentioned the conversation we're having with the governor's property tax elimination program. So, I mean, that might be the next one because he's raising the stakes. You know, it's like when you're playing poker and somebody else goes plays chips, and then you got to play. Like, people, imagine you pay your house off and you still have to pay 1% of your value to the county, and then the county's requiring you to wear masks in your business and you're violating the rights of your customers. And so there's this circle which is very devastating for the individual and businesses and families. And so Gavin Newsom is just sitting there making decisions that hurt other people unnecessarily, in my opinion.
All right. David, I thank you so much for taking time and giving me your perspective. I hope we can all take our masks off and keep them off soon.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely, man. Thanks for giving me a call and publishing the show, however you edit it.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
You too. All right, well, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye. Okay, so that was the interview with Max from KION. How'd I do? Let's take a look. See what they publish.